last 1 month, the way you revise, the way you chalk out things that you're going to revise is very important. Yes, I think Sandhan initiative by VisionIAS is an excellent initiative in which you can specifically figure out that what are my weak areas and give tests related to that particular portion of the syllabus. Right now is not the time when you should try to gather knowledge from more sources. That time is gone. Absolutely nothing. क्या हार में क्या जीत में किंचित नहीं भयभीत में कर्तव्य पथ में जो मिला यह भी सही वह भी सही वरदान मांगूंगा नहीं.
Hello aspirants, welcome to VisionIAS special discussion series on Prelims Preparation. With hardly 30 days left for exam, you must be having a lot of doubts and anxieties. To help you sail through these aspects, we have with us Jatin sir of VisionIAS. Welcome sir.
Thank you so much, Pratik.
Sir, there are hardly 30 days for exam now. Students must be approaching you regarding their doubts and anxieties. So what are some of the key challenges that aspirants are facing currently?
With just 30 days left for the examination, it is very natural that students have a lot of doubts at this point of time. And these doubts are not necessarily academic, but they are about how they are going to do in the exam and whether they are really prepared for the exam at this point of time. The biggest challenge which I see students face is the fear of failure. They think that what if they fail and what are the others going to think about them? How their family is going to perceive their failure? What are they going to do if they do not qualify the prelims examination, or for those who are attempting this exam the second or the third time, what is in it for them in future? Is it going to be a lot of difficulties for them in terms of their career? Not just that, but there are a lot of self-doubts where they are not very sure that whatever they have done, is that going to be sufficient? Is that going to be enough for doing well in the examination? Plus the entire peer pressure of talking to your friends and to others and knowing what they have prepared, what they have read, also adds to a lot of pressure on them. So I have seen this typically in all the students, that they carry a burden of the entire world on their shoulders and on their head when they are in this stage of the examination.
So in this regard, sir, what's your general advice to the students?
So the first I believe is that you should plan really properly. Even though it's just 1 month, but if you can use this 1 month properly by planning it, it can do wonders for you. Last 1 month, the way you revise, the way you chalk out things that you're going to revise is very important. And by planning, I don't mean that you should have plan in the air, but you should rather write down the plan. I remember reading a particular chapter from the book written by James Clear, Atomic Habits. And in that he mentioned about an experiment that was once conducted, where there were 3 groups of people whose habit to exercise on a daily basis were being tracked. And it was seen that there was one group of people, those who were asked to write down whatever is the daily practice that they are growing through in terms of exercising on the piece of paper. The second were asked to not just write down and track their regular daily exercises, but also read up about the benefits of exercising and some text related to it. And the third group was asked to first write down the plan for exercising and then perform the exercises as per their plan. And without any kind of surprise, the third group ended up performing significantly better than the first 2 groups. The first 2 groups, the success rate of sticking to what they had originally planned for was around about 30%. But for the other groups, the success rate was more than 80%. So when you write down your plan on piece of paper, then you have much more clarity of whether you are able to achieve that plan or not and where you are going wrong. Now, what kind of planning should be done here? Firstly, they should identify what are their weaknesses and what their strengths are. A good candidate at the examination would always be aware of what are the strong areas. And what they should do is that maybe for the next 2 weeks, they can focus on the strong and the weak areas equally. But in the last 2 weeks, they should focus only on the strong areas so that they have more confidence for the preparation for the examination. So that when they go into the examination hall, they go in with a lot of confidence that I am prepared well, because confidence plays a really important role. So planning is very important. What they can also do in that planning exercise is that if there are subjects which are more forgettable in nature, say for example, ancient history, culture, possibly topics related to environment, they can leave the revision for those particular topics towards the end of the preparation schedule. So it could be towards the last 2 weeks, and right now they could focus on more conceptual subjects. In their everyday plan, they should deliberately make it a point to practice some questions as well. So they should always be thinking in the question and answer mode now. Now is not the time to gain or accumulate knowledge. All of that time is gone. Now only thing that they should focus on is on trying to apply that knowledge. And what is the best way to do it other than solving the question? So they should have some time chalked out in the day, almost half an hour to 1 hour, where they should be only attempting questions. And ideally, they should attempt these questions in a time-bound manner. The other thing which should be a part of the planning process is also reading newspapers. I have seen numerous times that candidates stop reading newspapers in the last 1 month. The kind of trend and pattern that we have seen in the examination in last few years, we have seen that last 2 weeks also UPSC ends up asking some of the other important news. So they should focus on that as well. So not skip the newspapers in the last 2 weeks, in the last month of the examination. Maybe last 2 weeks you can do that, but for last 1 month you should not skip it. Another very important thing, one is planning. You also need to detach yourself a bit from results. I know it's very easy for me to say this right now sitting here, that they should detach themselves from the result. But if they genuinely want to do well in the examination, and however ironical it may sound, ideally they should just focus on the process. When they have set out their plan for the day, they should try and focus on that plan for the day. What should get them frustrated is not being able to achieve that plan for the day, and not whether they will be able to do well in the examination or not. They should not think about the things which are beyond their control. There will be things in the examination which they can't really control. For example, how difficult the exam would be. Last year the cutoff was somewhere around 75 for the general category. Maybe this year the examination is easier and the cutoff goes up. Maybe this year the examination is tougher and the cutoff goes down. But they can't control all of these things. They can't control how many questions will be asked from polity. I spent a lot of time preparing polity. They ended up asking more questions on geography. They ended up asking more questions on culture. You can't control those things. What you can control is that मेरे जो strong areas हैं, whatever my strengths are, can I focus on those aspects of preparation? And then the last and the final thing which I would also advise to all the candidates is that right now is not the time when you should try to gather knowledge from more sources. That time is gone. Absolutely nothing. Except newspapers, you should not read any news source. Have faith and belief that with whatever you have studied, you'd be able to get 50 questions correct. See, looking at the cutoffs, Pratik, we don't need to do 100 questions right. We just need to get maybe around 50 to 60 questions, and possibly maybe with an accuracy rate of 90 or 85%, you will be easily able to get through. The problem that happens is that there is always a fear that what if I don't read this material? My friend read this, what if question comes from that? They will have to resist the temptation of referring new material or referring absolutely something which is bringing new knowledge to them at this point of time.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, one common question among aspirants these days is that should they revise everything end to end or should they be selective about it?
Absolutely. Selective revision is very important, and that's why I said that planning is so crucial. You can't revise everything in this last 1 month. It's not possible. You have studied so much, you have read so much over last 1.5 years, maybe 2.5, 3 years for some people, those who are appearing for the second and the third time. So how is it possible that you can revise everything? What I would suggest is that identify some of the core meaty areas of the syllabus which in your opinion carry a lot of weightage in the exam. For example, if I were to talk about my subject, polity, I would say fundamental rights is a very important topic. This year, considering it's the election year, anything related to model code of conduct, delimitation exercise, political parties, election commissions, the entire process of conducting election become very important topics. The changes that have been made in the reservations with respect to women in the legislatures is also something which is very important. So focus on those areas which have either been in the news or which have traditionally been very important in UPSC examination. Similarly, in modern history, instead of focusing a lot of attention on the peripheral topics, focus more on the Gandhian movements, focus more on the social religious movements that were in India during the 19th century, because UPSC focuses a lot on these topics. So identify those key areas. My suggestion will be that you take up the books that you have referred for preparation for the syllabus, and in that, with your experience of referring the previous year questions, just mark out 4 to 5 topics which are very crucial and focus on them. It is possible that in that process, you may miss out on 1 or 2 topics which you think are still important, but don't go beyond 5 topics, 6 topics for every subject. If you find time towards the end, once you're done with revision for these core areas, then you can always go to those topics as well. That's what my suggestion will be, because trying to revise everything at this point of time, one, it will add a lot of unnecessary pressure. When I talked about planning, Prateek, in planning, setting realistic goals which are achievable is also very important, because you set an unrealistic goal that I will cover entire polity end to end in 5 days, and you're not able to, then you will be frustrated. Then you will feel somewhere that there is something lacking in my preparation. So ideally set very, very realistic goals for yourselves, and that is what will help you not only stay confident, but also achieve what you're trying to in the exam.
Right, sir. So selective revision and planning. Sir, another dimension of the question is related to mock test. A lot of students have this doubt that they want to attempt as many mock tests as possible in the next 30 days. So what's your take on this, sir?
So attempt tests, but it should again not come at the cost of revision. See, tests should be given not just for the sake of giving tests. You should know what is the purpose of giving tests. The purpose of giving tests is to get yourself familiar with the examination environment. The purpose of giving tests is to ensure that you develop an examination temperament. And third, it is to also see what are your strengths and weaknesses and work upon them. So you can give as many tests as you want, but you should also find enough time to analyze your attempt in the test as well. If you are not giving equal amount of time, or maybe if not as much attention to analyzing your attempts, then there is no point of giving tests. So I would suggest that if there are 30 days left, at the max, I would not suggest any candidate to give more than 8 to 10 tests in this duration. That is a test every 3 or 4 days. इससे ज़्यादा देना is very disastrous, because होगा ये कि आप टेस्ट तो दे देंगे, आपके scores ऊपर नीचे आएंगे, you will not be able to get the right kind of scores, and then what will happen? You will feel more anxiety that I am not able to score enough. The reason for that would be because you're giving too many tests. एक fatigue set in हो जाता है with respect to tests as well. You can't tire yourself. जब आप 2 घंटे का एक टेस्ट देते हैं, it drains a lot out of you, and then you don't really have a lot of energy left for the rest of the day. So you have to plan that also in a very proper manner. I would personally suggest that give a test every 5 to 7 days. So that means maybe 5 to 6 tests in this duration. If at all you feel that you have not given enough tests already, don't overdo it. Rather, spend more time on analyzing the test that you have given rather than just giving the test.
Right, sir. Sir, is it a good strategy to focus more on weak areas, especially considering the mock test? Like you can take the areas where you are weak and you can take a personalized test for that.
Yes, I think Sandhan initiative by VisionIAS is an excellent initiative in which you can specifically figure out that what are my weak areas and give tests related to that particular portion of the syllabus. So that's something which the student should avail of. But at the same time, I would say that they should not take this exercise too deep into the exam preparation. Closer to the exam, attempt Sandhan or any personalized test related to the areas which you are strong in. And in that also, you should analyze if in the strong areas you're going wrong with questions. Try to analyze the kind of mistakes that you're making. Are the mistakes more factual in nature? Are they more conceptual in nature? Are they silly mistakes? And as I have repeated again and again earlier as well to students during our course of interviews as well as in the other sessions, don't be bothered so much about going wrong with questions where you're not sure. It is okay. You have gained knowledge about that topic now. What should bother you is that if there is an easy question which you have got wrong, or if there is a question that you have got wrong which you knew the answer to, then you should try to figure out that what was it that led to that mistake in the test time, or what really made you commit that particular error.
Right, sir. Sir, a lot of students also have this doubt on number of questions that they would want to attempt in the prelims. So should there be a preconceived notion on number of questions that they should attempt?
Absolutely not. If I talk about General Studies 1, I have had many experiences in the past. One year, the cutoff had gone 95 or 98 marks. And one of my students, who's now an IAS officer, he ended up creating a fatal mistake in the exam. When I talked to him after the exam, he told me that he attempted 99 questions and he seemed very happy about it. He thought that he had done really well. And the moment he told me, I knew that this year he is not going to qualify the prelims. The problem here was in his attempt was that not that he was not prepared, not that he was not a sincere candidate. He was sincere and that's why he is an IAS today. But the problem was that he had in his mind some figure which he had gone into in the examination hall with, that I have to attempt these many number of questions. And he thought that what if the cutoff goes higher? So let me attempt more questions. In that process, he ended up attempting a lot of questions. You not only lose 2 marks for attempting a wrong question, but the negative marking also. And that severely dents the chances of any candidate in the examination. So the strategy to attempt the prelims examination has to be that when you go through the first reading of the question paper, you would be able to analyze whether this paper is of moderate or extreme difficulty or easy difficulty. Usually it would be between moderate to difficult. UPSC is not known for giving easy papers anyway. And that you would be able to assess on the basis of the mock test that you have written. That would give you some idea that what kind of test is easy and what is moderate and what is difficult. According to that, I would suggest that in the first iteration, you should go for those questions which you are absolutely sure of. After that, go for the second iteration in the paper again and see questions where you are slightly unsure. Attempt those. If that number is enough, in your opinion, according to this particular paper, you should not go into the third iteration at all. Maybe you can look at questions in the third iteration. If you find something which you are absolutely sure of, only then you should attempt those, otherwise no third iteration. If let us say, if I believe that in a particular paper, I would need around 90 marks to qualify out of 200. In my first iteration, I attempted 40 questions and in which I am almost sure of 95% of the questions. That will almost get me around 70 marks. So now I need 25 more. In the second iteration, I attempt 10 more questions. So that will give me possibly again maybe 15 to 20 marks. So I'm still short on 10 to 15 marks. Then there is no other way. I will have to take risk in the third iteration. But let us say that in the first iteration, you have got 50 questions. In the second iteration, you have got 20 questions. You have got 70 questions. Even if you get 60 out of those 70 correct, you will end up with almost a score of 110, somewhere around 105, 110. So why do you need to take the unnecessary risk? So therefore, avoid that temptation in the exam. In fact, I believe that UPSC deliberately sets some questions in the exam with the aim of making the candidates go wrong. They want you to attempt those questions. They want you to be tempted into those questions. Because you would think that I know the answer, but the way the UPSC is setting options nowadays, you must have seen that how they're setting options, only 1 correct, only 2 correct, only 3 correct. In those questions, you're not even sure of which statement is correct, which option is correct or not. You're actually going at a certain amount of risk every time in those questions. So if you're unsure of some options, don't go with those questions. You have to be intelligent, and that is where the practice of mock tests, the role of the questions that you have attempted before the examination comes in.
Sir, when it comes to CSAT, the paper has been becoming difficult in the recent years. So in this regard, what are your suggestion for the students to approach CSAT in the next 30 days?
So first, again, don't go with the preconceived mindset in the examination with respect to CSAT. Last year, we saw that candidates went with the perspective that we will attempt one section, we will attempt we will not attempt comprehension, we will only attempt quantitative questions, and the UPSC ended up bowling a googly to the candidates. The year before, it was a completely different kind of a situation. So don't go with a preconceived notion. Look at the difficulty level of the paper. If you think that questions in quant are difficult, then look at questions in comprehension section and see if you can attempt those. If you find vice versa, then go for the quant section. It is possible that they may have given a mixed response of questions in CSAT and in quant and in the comprehension section. So what you should do in that particular circumstances, that pick up those questions which you think are attemptable, attempt those, qualify the CSAT. We don't need to get 200 marks in CSAT. We just have to cross the line. So be smart about it. Don't be stuck on questions. In CSAT, the biggest problem is that candidates get stuck on question. They make it an ego issue. They end up wasting a lot of time. And in that process, they end up doing all the good thing that they have done. They undo it. Whatever good thing that they have done in the GS1, they undo it in the CSAT paper. So don't do that. Also in CSAT, what I would suggest is that have some warm-up exercise with respect to questions. So keep revising some basic concepts and maybe do or solve some 15 to 20 questions on a daily basis, but don't overthink about it. I think if you have prepared even basic level for CSAT, and if you maintain your cool in the examination hall, CSAT would not be a problem, because there you don't need to get 100. You just need to qualify. You just need to cross that particular barrier.
So speaking of maintaining cool, what's your advice on students to manage their stress and anxiety?
At this point of time, I think stress and anxiety has gone through the roof. The first thing, as I said, is planning. If you plan, then you would be able to reduce the stress significantly. Second is that we undervalue the importance of food that we eat. Eat properly, sleep properly. When I mean eat properly, doesn't mean that you are eating a lot of calorie-based food. Eat food which keeps you fresh. It could be anything for any individual, but try to figure out what you are eating, because what we eat determines our body. How our body is determines how our mind functions. So don't eat calorie intensive food. Eat something which keeps you fresh. Take fresh juices. Also maybe in the examination hall as well. If you're feeling, you can always take maybe a chocolate or maybe some sweets with you. But of course, you'll have to ensure that you take them in either some transparent paper or something like that, so that they don't stop you before the entering into the examination hall. Also, sleep properly. Right now, last 1 month, they should get into this exact same sleep cycle that they would need to be in for the examination. So if you are supposed to be in the examination center at 8:30 or 9 o'clock that day, you plan backwards, you decide that what time would I need to get up on the exam day, and you plan your days according to it itself. होता क्या है कि हमारे को टेम्पटेशन होती है जब हम पढ़ रहे होते हैं एक रात को कि चलो आधा घंटा और पढ़ लेते हैं, लेट्स स्टडी 1 hour more, 2 hours more. Then what that does is that our sleep cycle gets absolutely, it goes for a toss, and then it's very difficult to get it back. And once it is out of sync, to get it back in sync is very difficult. It may happen to a few candidates that day before the examination, they may not be able to sleep properly. Despite the fact that you've been sleeping regularly at 10 o'clock every day, हो सकता है आपको उस दिन 12 बजे तक नींद ना आए, which is natural because you are anxious. So one thing that you must understand is that everyone is anxious. You are not alone. Every person whom I have seen qualify this examination in the past, even rank 1, was anxious about the exam the day before. So you are no different. तो उसके बारे में सोचने का कोई फायदा नहीं है. Rather, what they can do is that maybe a day before the examination, do some physical activity. Ideally, you should do that physical activity every day, so that you have tired out yourself a bit before night, and so that the moment you get into the bed, you will fall asleep. That's the only way that you can actually fall asleep on the day before the examination, night before the examination. Third is that surround yourself with positive people. talk to your family, friends, those who can motivate you, those who can keep you in positive spirit. Also have a reward mechanism. Last एक महीने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आपको रूम में बंद कर लेना है अपने आप को and you have to completely cut yourself off from rest of the world. In fact, I would suggest to students that if you are able to achieve your daily targets, your weekly targets for next 1 month, you should reward yourself as well. Give yourself some good treat with good food that you like, maybe a movie with friends, maybe some sport, maybe listening to music, maybe anything which you enjoy as an activity. You should give that as an incentive to yourself to improve and to enforce a good habit as well, right? So that is also one of the ways. And last and most importantly, this exam is not a test of your ability. It's not a test of your capability. If you will do well, of course, others will praise. But if you will not, believe me, it will not make any difference to your life. You can do things that you want to do while being in service, being outside the system as well. Just let go of that pressure of the exam. Just look at it as an opportunity that I have got an opportunity to appear in one of the toughest examinations in the world, and I'm going to give my best. Result, whether it comes in my favor or not, I should not bother about it. If they go with this kind of a mindset, they'll be more positive, they'll be freer in their approach towards the exam.
That's very wonderfully put, sir. What's your final message to the student for the last 30 days?
So there is a poem, and in that poem there are a couple of lines from that poem which I would want to recite, which is क्या हार में क्या जीत में किंचित नहीं भयभीत में कर्तव्य पथ में जो मिला यह भी सही वह भी सही वरदान मांगूंगा नहीं. What I mean to say is that irrespective of whether it is victory or whether it is loss, you should not be afraid, and you should never ask things to be easy in life. The fact is that this is a difficult examination and you may face failure, but it is perfectly fine to fail. What is more important is the spirit with which you appear. And ultimately, as I said, your ability to do well in life would not be dependent on success or failure in this examination. So just go with a freer mindset and tell yourself that if you have worked hard, if you believe in God, if you do not believe in God, whatever it is you believe in, just go with that faith that something or the other will work in your favor if you have done a lot of hard work.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable advice.
Thank you so much, Prateek.
Dear students, with this we end the session. We wish you all the best for the upcoming prelims exam.